Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're back again to just kind of discuss our 2022-2023 membership drive and bring back why we're doing this again and talk to everybody if they have any questions about how to join up or what they get as members, and including things like the exclusive content, early access to content, potential to join us on stream, access to all of our giveaways, and so much more than that, educational courses. So tonight you got myself, Jeremy Bishop, and Frank Potato Soup Johnson. We're just going to hang out here for a little while and say hello. But Frank, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fairly well today. It's been a very eventful day as far as my prognoses and diagnoses with my medical condition.
Oh,
Trying to move the ball forward. Getting injured at work is always a problematic type of thing. And when you're dealing with 5 different doctors, a couple of different specialists, and testing and scheduling, these things take time. That's why I haven't been out at the range to do my usual reporting, because I'm having a lot of trouble still walking yet. And when you got to go to the range and carry a couple of 100 pounds of range equipment and camera equipment, guns, ammo, and all the rest of that stuff, it gets a little heavy and a little hectic. And but hopefully we took another step further today with some more scheduling, and I can hopefully get back to doing what I'll be doing. However, I have been in the process of recruiting some guest shooters to come out to the range with me in the next couple of weeks so that they could do some of the heavy lifting and I can just do the commentary and give my opinion. So with any luck, we'll have those up and running. We have been filming some of our premium content here at the studio in the office. When I say studio in the office, I mean my very small desk area.
fair enough.
Or my overly packed garage with my green screens that I have suspended from the rafters. We're trying the best we can right now under some limited capability. But come January 1st, when the premium content all kicks in, there'll be an entire library of stuff for our new members to watch and enjoy. And we have some pretty interesting people that we've been talking to that we're going to be bringing exclusive content with. Not only people who are constitutionally versed, and that's their expertise, but also people who are going to help educate everybody not only on the rights that you have, but on the rights that you're being denied. The things that we take for granted, that powers that should be ours that are at the moment not ours, and not because we have volunteered them, but because of the ignorance of law. The general public has allowed government agencies, whether small or large, to come in and circumvent the Constitution by edict or executive order. And we're going to be discussing a lot of those things with some experts in that field. And we're going to be bringing that stuff to everybody as well. That's going to be content that'll only be available as a premium member of the Liberty First Foundation.
Some information that's available to our, of course, premium and regular members, speaking of that exactly, is old Bill Who's Your Daddy Clinton coming back at it again with another assault weapons ban. Did you see that?
I just was in the process of reading some of the articles from
rotten
today.
Jackass.
But I did not get a chance to peruse all of them because we had the deadline tonight at 9 p.m. that we wanted to come to the people. I'll be reviewing that and parsing through it a little bit later tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand how it is that a former disgraced president of the United States who had a fictitious assault weapons ban put in place, then eventually have it run its course, time out, and mean nothing, is now going to be introducing some sort. Under what authority does he have to introduce any sort of legislation? Now, he may back or endorse a certain piece of legislation, but I don't remember him ever being elected to the House of Representatives or the Senate where he could pen such
Well,
a piece of legislation.
I'll be clear. I don't know if he created it, but he is definitely promoting it.
Well, you know
I'll
what?
have to do my own research and verify if it's his or what, but he's definitely pushing it.
Well, I just to give a little bit of analysis to the banning or potential banning of any potential firearm. Number one, in lieu of the Bruin decision, we are seeing a cascade effect of gun laws that are falling one at a time. It's taking a little bit of time, but they are falling. And one of the reasons they're falling is called the common use clause. And good evening, Mr. Vasquez. And the thing about common use and assault weapons, quote unquote assault weapons, is that at the time the 1993 assault weapons ban went into effect, and it ran for 10 years, and then it sundowned, there were 40 million semi-automatic, or what we call sporting rifles, in the possession of the hands of the American people. 40 million. There's over 200 million today. 200 million. So not only did their attempt at trying to keep these firearms out of the hands of the public backfire, it actually encouraged the American people to go out and buy these firearms, because it heightened the alert in the American people that if a right can be replaced or taken away from you, then you need something to be able to ensure that they can't take it from you all the way. And that's why Americans went out and by the tens of million armed themselves better than what they were before. So if Bill Clinton wants to once again be known as the greatest salesman of sporting rifles in America, I suggest he keep trying to, put that very red bulbous nose of his to the business of the American people. Otherwise, he might just want to go back to Chappaquiddick, find another intern, get a box of cigars, and sit at his desk and enjoy himself.
Well, I'm just want to jump in real quick because you're talking about the 1993, 1994 firearms ban that Joe Biden wants to take credit for, which wasn't his bill, but that's besides the point. But one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and you're absolutely correct, one of the huge things, Frank, is the number of people who actually own firearms in the United States increased. Not only that, everyone seems to forget. Have you guys ever heard of Professor James Allen Fox out of Northeastern University?
I can't say I have.
I believe the name rings familiar to me.
Well, a lot of people may not be familiar exactly with his name. The research is very popular. The fact is, he's one of the only individuals who's done consistent studies on mass shootings. And he is able to determine that over the last 45 years, there has not been a single change. The average has always stayed the same during the weapons ban and beyond, that it did not change. See, the biggest thing, we were sold this idea that if you do this, you will be safe. We had the same number of mass shootings before the weapons ban in 1994 as we had during and after it. It didn't change anything. So we have more people getting firearms, which according to the left is what will make things dangerous, that it's deadly for people, which is a lie. And they're telling us that by putting a ban on it, stopped people from getting the types of firearms they didn't like, the ones that they were afraid were coming out of the movies. And that's a lie. And it didn't change anything. No one was safer. The New York Safe Act has not made anyone safer. The New York GIVE report that came out on October 19th, telling us all the data over the last 10 years, actually more, for New York State. Not one person has been made safer. In fact, it's more dangerous than it was before. We've seen this in all the data. They always want to tell you you're going to be safe. Just give up this right. And you are never safe. And the data always shows us they always fail at protecting you. They fail at reducing the number of firearms, but they are absolute success on the one thing that isn't charted, which is taking away your rights and freedoms and making you more subservient. So I just wanted to kick that in because a lot of people didn't know there's actually data to support.
Well, that's the thing. I love when they just keep coming out and they're saying, oh, it's going to make you safer. It'll make you safer. It'll make you safer. Listen, whether I'm being victimized by a criminal or I'm being victimized by the government, I am not safe either way without the means to defend myself from either entity. So leave me the hell alone and let me defend myself, my family, my community, and to a larger extent, my country by having the firearm of my choice at my disposal so that I may do such things. Having the government decide for me what I need or what I should have is contrary to everything that the founding fathers put down in every one of our founding documents. And I'm sorry, I don't trust government at all. I don't trust government at all. I don't trust anything related to government. And people always say, well, you shouldn't have this, you shouldn't have that. It's okay. Well, if I shouldn't have an AR-15, why does my local law enforcement officer have one mounted in between the front seats of his car? Oh, well, he's law enforcement. Well, isn't he a person or she a person? Aren't they just as fallible as anybody else? Just because somebody is employed by government does not alleviate them of the infallibility of human nature. It doesn't alleviate them of the bad intent of human nature. It doesn't matter to me who is out there aiming that rifle at me. I need to be able to defend myself.
Well, these people that are telling you that, oh, they're law enforcement are the same people that are telling you police bad, defund the police, police are pigs, they're the devil, blah, blah, blah. They're the same people, just trying to spit a different side of the argument. It's not about the police. It's not about the gun. It's about the want to take control of you as the individual.
Yeah, why do we want a government to well equip and well arm a systematically racist, dangerous group of people and leave the people who are potentially their victims disarmed?
Well, their
because that's the argument the argument that they say. The police are dangerous. They can't be trusted. They over-police. They're racist. They're bigots. They're homophobes. They're whatever they are. They lump all of them into that one category, and then they say, but these are the people that we want you to call if your life is in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but that argument doesn't wash, because at the end of the shift, the badge comes off and they're a civilian again. They're just another person. Government employees are citizens. They're people. And they do not have more rights than the civilians that don't carry the badge.
But Frank, the thing you're missing there is it's because of the authority bias, the fallacy of logic, that if you have a title behind your name, you are smarter and better, and you are somehow different than everyone else. It's not that they're supporting police. They don't support the police, which is why they are trying to revision or reimagine, or however they want to rephrase it now. They want to defund the police. They want less police officers, but they need them because of the authority bias to try and sell people on the idea that you can have less firearms because the police will save you, except there's less of them. So it's going to take them longer to try and help you, if they can help you at all. And they want to try and have this illusion out there so that when they say, and why should you listen to me? Well, because I am an authority. I am a respected figure. And these guys are just guys. See, it was kind of interesting because Young Turks this week, I just want to jump in real quick with this week. I think it was Tuesday. The Young Turks had come out trying to say that in Texas, because there are more people who are armed, that it's become more dangerous. And here's the thing, and this is funny, because if you guys have heard of Larry Sharpe, he is a pretty well-known libertarian who's run for governor. Matter of fact, he's running for governor right now. He's also a friend of mine for the last 7 years. Larry got out there and he was ripping the young clerks to shreds because they did nothing but lie. And the fact is, according to the data from Texas itself, that the number of accidental deaths due to a firearm in Texas are down. The number of people who are being killed in Texas is down. Yes, they will point out one, maybe two examples in the news of one incident that went sideways, but they won't actually tell you the overall numbers because the numbers went down. The same reason why New York State, Kathy Hochul, won't tell anyone the numbers about concealed carry because she has no evidence. They aren't causing the problem. The problem is the less you have, the less you allow people to protect themselves, the more in danger they become. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, she doesn't have to give you the numbers because she doesn't have the numbers. She's going on her instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Well, more certainly, it's just, I don't know, it's absurd. But
so the only group of people who are under a threat of increased violence by having the American people well armed are criminals.
Yes.
Because criminals, if they want to come up on the street and run up on somebody and try to do them harm, like we're seeing by the dozen every week in New York City, the more the people are armed, the more the people are able to fight back and defend themselves, and it makes the criminal's job a lot more dangerous. Now, I've always said, I have a lot more respect for the guy who comes at me in the street with a knife and demands my wallet than I do the guy who calls me on the phone and tries to, skim my credit card numbers, because at least that guy's putting something on the line. He doesn't know that I'm packing. He doesn't know that I'm trained and prepared for him. I give more credit to the criminal in the street than I do somebody who tries to break into my house when he knows I'm not home, or steal my car, or do something like that. But these guys know now. They know in areas that people are well armed, you're seeing criminal elements of person-on-person crime decrease because the criminals are now aware that more people are carrying. Here in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm in Mecklenburg County. We have got so many people have applied for their concealed carry permits that there is a 9-month backlog. They don't have enough people to facilitate all of the background checks and everything else, which by in and of itself is bullshit, because according to our charter and our constitution in the state, they're supposed to have them expedited within a certain period of time, but they used COVID as an excuse as to why so many got delayed, because the in-person portion where you have to go get fingerprinted and photographed and all the rest of that they were unable to accomplish that. However, there are some 27,000 outstanding concealed carry permits at last count that have been applied and are awaiting approval. In the same number of time that they approved, that those 27,000 have been filed, they have already approved some 8,000 or 9,000 and have had 2 rejected. Two applications rejected for whatever reason. Now, those rejected applications could be a simple matter of a clerical error. It could be a matter of when you how many times have you heard somebody say that they will put on a no-fly list because their name matched the name of somebody else, and the government really just doesn't give a damn. they'll just Bob Roberts is on the no-fly list. Well, no Bob Roberts in the country can fly right now. Not till we figure out which one is the bad guy. So you have rejected applications that are not necessarily being rejected because somebody has a criminal background or because they're under indictment or because something was flagged. It's mostly clerical. But 2 out of nearly 8,000 applications, that's the level of rejection that they have here out of the 27,000 that have been applied for. And every week, there's another 1,000. Another 1,000, another 1,000. But when you look at the centers of crime that take place in the North Carolina area, they're where concealed carry permit holders are the least per capita. Where
That's
gun
right.
owners, where registered gun owners are the least in population per capita, is where you have the most amount of crime. Now, sadly, that follows along with national demographics as far as income, race, and everything else. It's that same pattern that we see constantly, where the people who are committing the crimes are usually repeat offenders. They're usually in the poorer neighborhoods. These are problems. This is why it's so important for us to reach out to those communities and be able to inform everybody there. Hey, listen, you have a right to defend yourself. You don't have a criminal history. And even in some cases, if you do, you still have a right to defend yourself. You should really figure out how to get yourself armed. That's one of the things that we reach out and try to accomplish.
Yeah.
But it's frightening to think that when you look at those statistics and you look at those numbers, and then you have people in government continue to say, you're better off if you give up your rights and let us take care of you. Well, we saw what happened when government told families to give up the family structure and we'll take care of you. We see what happens when people who are in failing health are told, well, you have government health care, we'll take care of you. Anytime government takes care of something, it gets worse.
Oh yeah.
Always. In 54 years of my life, I have never seen the government ever get anything right. We have seen that consistently in every example. There is nothing you can point to, whether it's woke or whether it's not, that the government has done well over time, short term or long term. Hell, the country, the United States government under Obama tried to create a website, and it cost us $800 million. It was actually, to be exact, $840 million the day that it turned on. This is the truth.
And crashed.
That's the part. And the day that it turned on, as predicted, they turned it on, and 5 seconds later it crashed. So they had to spend another $250 million. Again, these are in millions. I'm not misstating the numbers here. They spent another $250 million to fix their $840 million website, just so that it would stay on half the day.
But don't worry, they know better. Because remember, those jobs are shovel ready.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think government, you would think that the one thing government should do best is collect taxes, and they can't even do that right.
No.
And you explained to me, why the IRS needs fully automatic firearms, why they need 2 billion rounds of ammunition, why does IRS need SWAT and tactical vehicles, why does IRS need helicopters, why does the IRS have all of that stuff for what? I thought you guys are just supposed to be collecting taxes. What do they need all of that for?
No, actually, the only thing that I've ever seen the government do very effectively is try and take away people's rights. They're not efficient at collecting money, because if you were to look at how many people they keep hiring to try and take money, but versus the amount of money they need, they're very inefficient at it. They're not very good at it.
Yeah. Well, they're good at spending money.
They're trying to catch up with Twitter and have 5 managers for every employee.
10 managers for every employee, which is ridiculous.
With that, while we've been running on mounts, we've been joined by our co-founder and our fearless, intrepid constitutional expert, Michael Marshall. And
hello, everybody.
we see Jan Reeves has popped in. Jan, hello. We see you. We want to make sure to acknowledge your presence. You're always here with us. We always appreciate you. How you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing good. Sorry, I was running a little late.
No excuses.
It happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
It does.
Matter occurs.
That's right. Well, tonight is a rather informal get together tonight. It's not our usual night. Unfortunately, as for tomorrow, each of us has got a previous engagement, and some things we just can't assuage our responsibility for. So we had to preemptively come in tonight and do a little shooting of the shit and talk about our membership program again.
Mhm.
And we're going to be doing that quite often. But Michael, what's on your mind today?
On my mind today is there's so much going on wrongly with our government, whether it's at the federal level, the state level, or the local level. And the only way that we're going to actually be able to change that is if people like you and I and others across this nation start becoming involved and we start getting organized on it. And I'm not talking about armed confrontations or anything like that. I'm talking about organizing and working, starting at the local levels and starting working to change your communities and change the politics that are happening there. Okay. Start getting involved. Start taking back the government and putting it back into the hands of we the people. And this is all doable. It's doable by talking to your neighbors. It's doable by having open and honest dialogues and discussions. Okay. And realizing government doesn't have our best interests at heart. Government has the interests of the elite at heart. And that's who they're out for. Okay. I don't care if you're left. I don't care if you're right. I don't care where you're at. Okay. If you think government is for you, you need to really take a step back and look at what's really happening. Okay. Because they're not. Okay. The only thing they're out for is they're out for themselves. They're out for the power. They're out to control you. And that's it in a nutshell. And both sides are just as guilty as the other. So,
Well, I've always asked, why would somebody spend millions and millions of dollars to try and get a job that only pays $160,000 per year? And there's got to be some benefit to it, because every single person that takes one of those jobs, by the time they leave office, whether it's by retirement or by death, their net worth is somewhere in the 10 figures. And that's a hell of a lot more profitable than crime, it seems to me.
well,
It is crime.
it is. Okay. And it sickens me.
Well, I want to throw in something there, because it's part of the reason why we have the membership drive. It's part of the reason why we speak with you, the public, so often. And we can see the examples of it, is that they are trying to shut your voice down. They don't want you to ask questions. They don't want you to think about anything. I'll give you a great example, real world from today. And I put this out. The fact is that I obviously have a YouTube channel. I'm tracking how people are paying attention to various stories. And YouTube provides this chart. Everyone's seen it before if you have a YouTube channel. And over the last 2 days, and amazingly, something happened at 9 p.m. last night, just about 24 hours ago. They literally hit a switch and just stopped any attention. They stopped people having political commentary. They stopped people from being able to talk about the 2022 election. They stopped people talking about North Korea and the fact that they have fired over 61 missiles in a single year, more than ever in any president's history. And in fact, more than almost any president's combined 4 years. This happened in a day. 17 of these missiles, actually 23 of these missiles, which means that we are closer to the Korean War of 1953 than we have been literally since 1953. This is one of the most dangerous days in Southeast Asia since 1953. And they turned it all off. See, this
And
is
you got to wonder why.
Mhm.
yeah. And
Well-
DHS and FBI going over to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, telling them, hey, by the way, we don't want people talking about North Korea. We don't want them to talk about the election. We don't want to point out that there are racist Democrats that are in elections. They don't want you to think.
Oh.
And that's scary.
Well,
It-
here's
it-
what I receive. I've received this a couple times.
Mhm.
Preparing for the 2022
Oh, yeah.
restriction period
Mhm.
ads about social issues, elections, or politics in the United States.
Which is absolute horseshit. This is the time we should be talking about it.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
I'm not talking about ads.
And
I'm talking about
no.
videos, actual
Mhm.
channels. There's
Oh, yeah.
being sold. That's the content. Same thing with this channel. It's
Mhm.
the content itself, and they're saying, "Oh no, you can't show anyone that." Why the hell not? It's called First Amendment.
Well, yeah, they're worried about the image it transposes on them, and you mentioned the missile testing in North Korea, and I can't help but think that 100% is only happening because of our weak ass leadership in the United States right now. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, is afraid of the U.S. right now, and
Well,
everyone looks at what we have and goes, "Pfft, "What the fuck are they going to do about it?" Look at their clown in chief. Nobody has any reason to try to, and I'm not saying anyone should fear the United States, but there's no respect for the United States. People look at us and laugh right now. And it's because of who we, the people, and those hundreds of thousands of stuffed envelopes got put into office.
Well, maybe if North Korea decided to target Ben and Jerry's, Breyers, Turkey Hill, and all the other ice cream manufacturers in the country,
Nancy
we might
Pelosi
get
would
a
lose her
response.
mind.
Well, Nancy and so would Joe, because everybody knows Joe loves his chocolate chip ice cream. But it's funny because we were talking about this the other day and off camera about how whether or not our friend Alex brought up the question about whether or not we could bring suit against these digital format enterprises for restricting our free speech. And when it's such a fuzzy gray area because they're considered private entities, but when they're working as the de facto arm of the U.S. government, they're pretty much acquiescing any freedoms that any securities and protections that they had from litigation, because now they're working for the government. Now you're saying, okay, the government is doing this, you're acting as their enforcement arm. That's got to come with a price. And and now when you see with Elon over there, with the big $8 a month scandal that's plaguing YouTube, Twitter rather, all of these leftists who have pretty much gotten their little blue check mark and have built their followings up because they've been verified, all of a sudden they're all up in arms that they might have to pay for it. Well, isn't it convenient that they've been able to run at the mouth because of their verification and be able to use the algorithm to build a following, but as soon as they have a price to pay that comes out of their own pocket, they have a problem with it? And it's not because they have to pay the $8 a month fee to get their verification. That's not what they're mad about. They're mad about people like me, people like you, organizations like the Liberty First Foundation being able to pay that $8 a month because we can afford to do it, put our own check mark out there and build our own audiences. That's what they're upset about, is that the playing field is no longer 45 degrees slanted in their favor, that they could just keep collecting the data, collecting and amassing a following. Now they have to play on a more even playing field, and they're upset about that. Twitter is taking away their ability to silence us by giving us the ability to promote ourselves. They're upset about that. Now, if you look at it, I don't see why there's not more outrage among the American people when they see how they have been silenced and how these media corporations have been allowed to run roughshod over our ability to have free speech. I don't understand why. But if one of the Kardashians gets a cold or a flu or gets knocked up, that's the headline news.
Well, here's something else. Okay, and people could try to say the election wasn't
We lost him.
Said the wrong
As soon as he said the word election,
they can try to say that it wasn't manipulated. There's so much damning evidence that there was, and
well, you don't even have to say that it was absolutely corrupted. We know for a fact in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, state after state after state. We have gone into the courtrooms. The courts have said that the changes that were made to election law were unconstitutional. They have reversed the laws. They have changed the laws. They have prevented the states from being able to do what they did in 2020. So it is a fact that no matter how you want to look at it, there were irregularities, many of them being unconstitutional, as has been determined by multiple courts in multiple states. They
Well,
can't get us for that. They
You know,
should-
there's a term in legal terms called to be made whole.
Mhm.
And if somebody were to damage your property or damage you or something like that, and you take them to court, and it's a civil or even a criminal matter, eventually they would say, okay, yes, this was right, this was wrong. If somebody was made wrong, this okay, well, we have to adjust this, but you have to pay restitution for the damages you had done to the victim in order to make the victim whole again. They have to be in the position that they were prior to the activity that caused the damage. So while we took all these cases to court and all these judges and stuff said, yeah, that is wrong. You can't do this with ballots. You can't do this mail-in. You can't do the drop boxes. You can't do this. You can't do that. Okay, but it was done. What are you going to do to rectify the damage that was done? Don't worry about future damage. Worry about what was done. And no court in this country took it upon themselves to say, you know what? These votes are nullified. These are disqualified. These are the true results. Let's have an accurate counting based on the law. They didn't do that. The country was never made whole. The voters of this country were never made whole. And that in and of itself, you have 80 million American people that were disenfranchised. And not only because, but you had 330 million that were affected. Because whether or not you voted one way or another, look at the state of the country right now. Even the people that voted for the fraud have been negatively affected. Whether they just don't have enough good sense or pride to admit that $6 a gallon gasoline is not where we should be. $5 a gallon milk is not where we should be. $7 for a dozen eggs, not where we should be. Having to get heat help for everybody to get heat in their house this winter is not where we should be. They don't want to make that. They don't want to make that concession, because if they make that concession, they're admitting that the wrongdoing took place, and they're admitting that our judicial system did not work effectively.
Well, here's okay. As we've seen, okay, there are so many irregularities with the last election, the 2020 election. And one of the biggest things that came out of the 2020 election that I find that I draw a lot of pause with is there were a lot of people raising questions about the 2020 election. Yet the party that's in power now was fighting tooth and nail to keep audits from being done.
Mm-hmm.
If they were so sure that the election was good, that it was properly ran, that there were no irregularities, why were they fighting so hard against these audits?
These are the same people who had who requested audits in 2000 with Al Gore. These are the same people in 2016 that requested audits. That's Hillary Clinton. These are the same people who were requesting audits. We're talking Stacey Abrams and Anthony Brindisi, who was running for the New York 22 at the time. But it's so funny that once they got the result they wanted, they stopped asking for any of those receipts. They stopped asking for the audits and to double check when they got the answer they liked.
And
And these are the same people that tell you when you get stopped by the police, well, if you have nothing to hide, why don't you just let them search your car? Why don't you let you search your house? Well, if you have nothing to hide, why don't you present your taxes, present your receipts if you got nothing to hide? They don't care about, about how they infringe on your rights to be able to do something. But as soon as they have something to hide, They don't want to. They don't want to be open. They're not for transparency in government. As soon as the result is what they want it to be, it's only when they lose that they want something to be open.
Now,
Mhm.
on top of it, okay, Time has outright admitted that the election was manipulated, and they go into detail how it was done. Okay, we've seen court cases where it's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the machines could be hacked and manipulated in real time. We've also since found out through various challenges in the courts that many of these machines that were never supposed to be attached to the internet were.
Well,
Okay,
and then
there are so many other irregularities. Okay, and I honestly, at this point, I don't care who won or lost. I want to know where the failures were in the last election. And until those are determined, we cannot trust any election moving forward.
no.
Period.
Well, I don't want to hear anybody say that the 2016 election was manipulated by $160,000 of Russian advertising, and that election was therefore invalid. But telling me that of an election where billions of dollars were spent across the country to manipulate votes and to suppress this and to do that was a perfectly legal, where counties had 130% voter registration vote for one candidate only. That was totally normal.
Mhm.
That was
Right.
totally normal. But $160,000 in ad buys by the Russians made that one, that was totally, illegitimate. The same people that said the Florida in 2000 was illegitimate because of the hanging chad and the dimpled ballot and all the rest of the stuff. Where 7 audits later, it showed who won.
And honestly, right now, I don't think we can trust our elections. I don't think
Not
we
at
can
all.
trust the election process.
Not one bit.
Not
Okay.
until it comes
It's-
down to a paper
it's
ballot
not-
and a receipt.
It's not the voice of the people. They can try to claim over and over and over again that the voice of the people was heard. No, it was not.
No,
Okay.
we're gonna-
And at this election, Biden's right. Our democracy is at risk with this election because we do not and we cannot trust the election process.
Yeah, but Mike, what they're actually doing right now is we're hearing Biden, we're hearing AOC, we're hearing Nancy Pelosi, we're hearing all of these individuals. They are going around and telling people that if you do not agree, you are the bad guy, you are evil, that if they don't get the results that they want, that this is a problem, like Maxine Waters has said, that this is, you have to comply, and anyone who is not complying is an example of extremism, of evil, of not being American. And how long before they start saying, and you have to be punished? We already see that.
Well, that's the next thing. They're already putting the alerts out for the election to all of the Antifas, to the BLMs, to everything else that says if we don't win the House and win the Senate and can keep these 7 governorships that look like they're going to flip, that's the dog whistle to those organizations to go out there and do the exact same thing they did in 2000. Burn this in 2020, and that's to burn the country down. That's what they want them to do. They want them to do that because they know that they have a complicit media that's going to paint these people into any category they want. You're going to see pallets of bricks being deposited on city streets again. Dumpsters full of glass bottles. You're going to see all of this stuff anonymously dropped all over the place because that's what they want to do. They want to say, well, look what happened. The Republicans took control of the House and the Senate, and the whole country's on fire again. They every time the Republicans are in power or conservatives are in power, the country goes to shit with itself. That's what they want. Because if they know that there's so many eyes on the election right now, that tampering and fraud is going to be that much more difficult for them to do, unless it's just done with electronic means. if the outcome doesn't come out their way, they're going to burn the country down. And what they want is to provoke a response from us.
Well, Frank, you're leaving out something that they are. Yes, you're right with everything you're saying, but they're going to burn it all down because they're going to, at the same time, blame it all on us. Just real simple. Look at what happened with Paul Pelosi. We are the bad guys for asking questions based on the reporting that they initially gave us, that they are now changing, that they're not providing evidence about. And gee, did you notice the person who's been accused of this crime, however you think about the crime, no matter what you think may have led up to that crime, they painted this person as a right-wing conservative. This is a hemp dealer. This is a nudist activist. This is a left-wing radical, if anything, for his entire life. But somehow now, today, after the fact, without any other supporting evidence, he is now a right-wing conservative out of the blue. This is
I got one for you right now. I can't remember names because it's a district I'm not in, and I only got the report a couple of minutes before we went live tonight. We have two candidates running for a district here in North Carolina. The left-wing candidate filmed an ad a couple of weeks ago outside of the home of his conservative counterpart, who's also running for the office.
Mm-hmm.
The left-wing guy went outside the man's home and filmed an ad talking about how the Republicans and conservatives are domestic terrorists and Trumpers are this and we're that and all the rest of the stuff. He did it outside the man's home. Well, earlier today, somebody went to that home and shot it up with the man's family inside of it. His children were nearly shot to death because they were just mere feet away from the window where the bullets came through. Now, when asked for comment, this guy has he's not going to give no comment. No one's going to ask him, well, one of your supporters apparently went and shot up the home of your opponent. Do you have any comment? No one's going to ask him. I asked. I haven't received a reply yet.
No, there's the thing. You're not going to get a response.
No, I'm not going to get a response. But when we have something where you actually have a cause and effect, we're not allowed to bring it up. And then we always have to take the high road by saying that the Bernie Sanders rhetoric prior to Scalise getting shot, what's his face getting shot up on the baseball field.
Who was it?
Yeah.
Scalise.
Yeah. We're not allowed to draw the line that connects Bernie Sanders and the Bernie Sanders supporter that went out and shot up the baseball field. You know, after Bernie Sanders and Maxine Waters and the rest of them were saying, get in their face, tell them they're not welcome, do all of this to use Nancy Pelosi's favorite word, rhetoric. You know, we're not allowed to make that distinction or draw that distinction. We're never allowed to do it. But if a guy in New York pisses off somebody and somebody in California hurts somebody else, somehow those are directly related. And I don't get that at all.
Well, it doesn't make sense because it isn't realistic. It stretches credulity. It's the same kind of. This is why you have people who think and I'm going to make it real easy for average people to follow this stuff because it's politics. It's the same way that the guys who wrote Rings of Power think they're smarter and better than J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings has been around 60 years. It has been translated in over 110 different languages. It is beloved. It's the reason why we got 6 movies and they made this TV show, and they spent $1 billion to copy down about 5 pages. For the rights to 5 pages of his notes were worth $1 billion. And these guys came in and said, we know better than you. We can rewrite it. We're better. We are as good as Shakespeare and better than Tolkien. And we can make this modern. We can make it about today. And you're going to love it. And everyone has rejected it. Everyone hates it. It is crap. It's the same concept here. that they are telling us they're smarter than us. They understand these things better than us, that we only need to focus on the things that they want us to focus on. This guy, Paul Pelosi's attacker, has been documented historically. Witnesses, eyewitnesses, his neighbors are all telling us that this man was a left-wing radical his entire life. And the news media tells us, no, don't believe that. We're telling you that we're writing a script that says that he is a right-winger, and we won't give you any evidence.
They also said that he was completely mentally unstable. And
notice the threads they leave out there that let you say this doesn't make any sense. And that's why they say, we see you're in North Carolina, but also don't forget, Kathy Hochul went and said she's the appointed governor of New York, put out a list of every location that Lee Zeldin was scheduled to be at to have a speech. Within 2 hours, a man was on stage during a live streamed event with bladed brass knuckles and tried to stab Lee Zeldin in the throat in front of the audience 2 hours after he got every single location from Kathy Hochul, but Kathy had nothing to do with that. That has nothing to do with Democrats.
No, there's no causality there. There's also, I remember when they were talking about the targeted areas that they wanted to have the McCain-Palin campaign focus on, and they put up the map that said, hey, we want to target this area, this area, this area, because these are the places where we think we could win. And they use little bullseyes, saying, oh, this is where we want to go. And the media said, look, McCain-Palin, they're using violence. They're using violence by saying targeting these areas. They want to target the areas. Now, as far as the Paul Pelosi thing goes, I just want to know one thing. If this guy was allegedly beat nearly half to death, as they've said, and he had to take a week in the hospital to recover, and he's still at home convalescing, who the hell answered the door when the cops got there? Because you would think that the assailant who just beat him nearly half to death would want to get the hell out would not open the door for the police. You would think the guy would have said, well, shit, I'm out of here, and ran. How did Paul Pelosi in his extremely injured state come to the door and say, hey, wait, Mr. Assailant, can you stop beating me with the hammer for a few minutes while I go answer the door and let the cops in?
According to Politico, in the original reporting on this story, which was also covered by several news stations, including NBC, but Politico, which is supposed to be supposedly neutral, initially stated there was a third person who was not identified nor held for questioning that opened the door when police arrived on the scene. And guess what? We know the answer to this question because we know there is videotape from the security, both on the police on their body cams and the internal, the additional security for the Pelosi's. Whether anyone was watching it live or not doesn't matter, which that seems to be a violation of many things, but that's another question. But the video exists both from the security cameras as well as the police officers. They want to shut down the questions. They want to silence people and make you believe their story. Fantastic. Show me the evidence. If it's so obvious and so clear and so unquestionable, show us the evidence.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes me wonder, though. I would imagine that Nancy Pelosi's house is surrounded by cameras, first of all.
It is.
Where's the video of this guy sneaking in his underwear into the property?
They won't show it.
We all have our suspicions of what really happened the night before, the night of, but they want to prove us wrong and say, oh, you guys are just being terrible, terrible. Prove it. Prove it.
Well,
show me where.
All I can tell you is this. All I can tell you is this. I'm not an elected official. I'm nobody. Nobody's looking for me. Nobody's doing this. But if I have a squirrel run across my front yard, I can show you the videotape of it.
Mm-hmm.
because
Mike, you got some. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, you got something pulled up there, Mike. Go ahead.
Well, okay, they like to bring up January 6th. Okay.
They
I
live
want to
for
bring
it.
up November 13th, 2018,
Mhm.
when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez decided to be a part of a protest in the middle of the House of Representatives, literally blocking the Speaker of the House's office. Okay, why don't they bring that up?
Because that was approved. That was a publicity stunt. That's why. It wasn't
Okay,
about
or what
anything
about
more.
when Miss Ocasio-Cortez and Tlaib were arrested for protesting in front of the Supreme Court over the Roe v. Wade decision.
with fake handcuffs. Yes, I remember.
Okay, or some of these other much more damaging protests that have occurred. What about the time when a bomb was set off in the House of Representatives? We don't hear any information about that.
and we
Yet
still don't.
January 6th was paramount to the attack on Pearl Harbor, the 9/11 attack. I mean, come on, get real.
And we still don't know anything about Ray Epps.
Nope.
Yeah, we
Nope,
still
never
don't.
will.
And we still don't know why there's so many people who were there at January 6th that have still been denied legal counsel, that have been denied phone calls, that are still kept in solitary confinement or deplorable conditions. We still don't know why these people haven't had an arraignment or a hearing, or why they haven't been charged with sedition, why they haven't been charged with treason, why they haven't been charged with insurrection. They have not been charged with anything more than either vandalism or trespassing. They haven't been charged with any of these things, and you have these people that have been denied the right to a speedy trial. We have hundreds of people, of American people, civilians, our people, languishing in jails with being denied their most basic civil rights. And I don't understand why that's not a big deal. Where is the ACLU when it comes to that? You know, where are the rest of these organizations that come out and say, hey, you know, you're not supposed to be doing this? Who exactly is in charge of that? And why have they not been called in front of Congress to be made to answer questions? And say, why do you have these people still locked up? I don't understand. Who is it? Is it Capitol Hill Police Department that's in charge of that whole thing? Is it the FBI? Is it the CIA, the NSA, the ABCs? I don't know who the hell it is that's in charge, but these people have been denied their rights, and that could have been anybody. And I actually know a couple of people personally that I have met over the course of my life who have been charged in for one thing or another, where they walked in and took pictures and got charged with stuff. They were let in the open door that Ray Epps and the rest of his crew, all the Fed boys that were there, that they opened the doors. And these people went in and took pictures. They got arrested, lost their jobs, had to go to jail, lost their pensions, lost everything because they went in and took pictures. I don't understand. I honestly, I don't understand. And it amazes me that there was more of an outcry from the American people over the way that confirmed terrorists were being treated at Guantanamo Bay than they were American citizens that are being treated the way they are right here on American soil. I don't understand how that's possible in this country. And I would hope that if the election goes away and takes to the point where these all these different councils that they run up on Capitol Hill, that maybe somebody should be called to answer for these things. Other than Merrick Garland, because that man is as useless as a cow blowing its own horns.
Okay, the picture that I have up here, okay, and this is actually the Senate. Workers begin the job of cleaning up debris in the hallway of the Senate side of the Capitol on March 1st, 1971, following an explosion of a bomb nearby. Official reports extensive damages but no injuries. Okay,
Wasn't that the
just
Weather
attack.
Underground?
Yes, it was. I was just getting ready to say that. Okay, this was the Weather Underground, an extreme left organization. However, the January 6th attack was so much worse.
Well, they're not going to bring up the Weather Underground in these things because it was Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dorn, the two founders of the Weather Underground, the people who were directly responsible for the bombing of the Senate building at that time. It was them that gave Barack Obama the kickoff party for his campaign to run for the Senate. It was them that hooked Barack Obama up with the what's his fate, the Rules for Radicals guys. They're not going to bring that information up because that's going to put direct links to violence to their most popular president. Oh, by the way, how did Barack Obama only get 71 million votes, being that he could walk on water and sing like an angel and fly and all the rest of the stuff, and Joe Biden, who can't put his Depends on straight in the morning, got 80 million votes? How the hell did that happen?
No,
How did that happen?
How did Joe Biden, Mr. Blacks and Latinos are not smart enough to use the internet to be able to vote? Mr. If you don't vote for me, you're not black. Mr. Look at the what did he say about the 7-Elevens? Oh, you can't go to 7-Eleven and not
7-Eleven without a slight Indian accent.
Yes.
I don't want my kids going to school in a racial jungle.
This is Joe Biden we're talking about.
Mr.
Having
Scratch
lunch with KKK archdukes. That's Joe Biden, who is more popular and more beloved, apparently, than Barack Obama, the man who was supposed to enter America into a post-racial nation. He broke the glass ceiling that every black person ever has looked at and said, I want to be president, but it won't happen in my lifetime, which if you happen to be 54, was this thinking in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. Hell, we know Al Sharpton believed that. We know that Pastor Jesse Jackson believed that. We all wanted to see a black president, and every single black leader in America up until 2006 was said, it's just not possible. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, out of nowhere, out of the Weather Underground, all of a sudden came Barack Obama. And he's less beloved than Joe Biden, the man who can't figure out where to sit down without having a flow chart.
The gas king.
Let's look at it also. 6 years displaced from the Obama presidency. Joe Biden and Barack Obama right now are having trouble filling up school auditoriums in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for a campaign event for themselves and Futterman. They can't fill up a high school auditorium. And I remember Obama at the Brandenburg Gate with 2 million people standing outside there. You know, for whatever reason, they decided to have a campaign event in Germany where where Barack Obama drew 2 million people. Now he can't draw 4,000 into a high school gymnasium.
Because he's better loved overseas, and it's easier to manipulate a crowd and to put together 2 million Germans than it is to get 2 million Americans to show up, unless it happens to be, and let's be honest about it, unless it happens to be President Trump, who routinely fills up stadiums with entire crowds the size of some cities standing outside of those stadiums with screens, big full, this is like tailgate screens up that are just showing him live. And he has been consistently doing that for 6 years, and these guys can't fill a gymnasium. Tells you something.
Yeah. But Joe Biden got 11 million more votes than Barack Obama, than Black Jesus. I don't buy that shit for a minute.
But that, of
Well,
course, is radicals.
all right. Well, listen, guys. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but you're all sitting in your nice, comfy homes, and because you can smoke there or drink there or do whatever you want to do there and have your conversation. I'm standing outside and it's 51 degrees outside. I've been out here for the last hour and 10 minutes. So I'm calling it quits. I got to go inside and finish helping getting the house cleaned up. We have company coming tomorrow. But
Go thaw out.
you guys do me a favor, go one more time, go over some of the benefits of our premium membership program for those of us who are still in the chat. And to those of you that are there, while I say goodnight, you guys be safe and shoot straight. I'm leaving you in the best hands I know. Love you all. Take care.
Yeah, have a great night, Frank. Thanks.
Frank.
Okay, we will go over one of the biggest reasons why we're having discussions like we are right now. Okay, is to show that our government at all levels are manipulating us. Okay, plain and simple. And the reason why they are able to manipulate us so well is because they have divided us. That's it. They have managed to divide us. Here at the Liberty First Foundation, we are working against that. We are working to unite the United States again. That is one of our main purposes and our main goals. And we're uniting ourselves underneath the banner of the Constitution. However, there's only so much the five of us can do. Okay, I'm including Jan in on this too. There's only so much we can do. There's only so much. We have a very limited amount of resources, I should say, in order to fight this fight. And the only way that we can fight this fight is if you help. And one of the ways that you can help is by becoming a member of the Liberty First Foundation. And we are, as a part of that membership, you're going to have access to quite a few things. You're going to have access to exclusive member-only content. You're going to have early access to other content that's going to be available before anybody else has a chance to see it. Part of this is also you're going to be eligible for exclusive member-only giveaways that we are going to be holding throughout the year. And the only way that you can do that is by being a member or be eligible for those giveaways is by being a member of Liberty First Foundation. Now, we've kept our price very, very modest at only $15 a year. Okay. And for the first 250 new members of the Liberty First Foundation, they will be entered or they will be eligible to receive the rifle that you see posted on the screen right now. Okay. That is a custom engraved Henry Golden Boy 22 lever action rifle. Okay. And if you are familiar with guns, you know that Henry is a legend in firearms. They build rock solid lever action and other firearms. Okay. Essentially, they are the rifle. They are the masters. They've been around for a lot of years, and we are going to be giving this as a thank you gift to one of our new members for supporting us. Now, mind you, this $15 that while it makes you eligible, that's not what you're getting for your $15. Your $15 donation to the Liberty First Foundation gets you access to us. We're going to be having exclusive webinars, exclusive live events that are going to be members-only live events. We're going to have exclusive member-only events where we're going to have meet and greets across the country as we can. There's a lot of things that are going to only be available if you are a member of the Liberty First Foundation. So you may be asking yourself, okay, that all sounds well and good. But what are you guys going to do with that money? And here's what we're going to do. We're going to use that money to help expand our message, to help expand the reach and expand our audience so that people can hear this firsthand. We're not in it to make money. That's not why we're here. We're here because we have a passion to save this country. And we see the only way that we can save this country is to get us back to our constitutional roots. Okay? The Constitution doesn't care if you're left, it doesn't care if you're right. The Constitution only cares that our government is defined by a predetermined set of rules that it is to abide by. That's what the Constitution is. Okay? And we have a government that for many generations has exceeded the authority set forth under the Constitution. And as a result, we are now in the shape that we see ourselves in today. The only way we're going to be able to restore this country is by organizing together and demanding that our government start adhering to the Constitution and adhering to the oaths of office that they take when they take office. Plain and simple. Okay, so we welcome you all to join us. Okay, and know that your money is going to be put forth to help educate a nation in knowing what their rights are and what the limitations of government really is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's incredible the things that you can get away with if no one asks a question, if your voice is silenced, if your vote is nullified, if you just are nodding your head as they give you headline and headline, no details, no substance, and no adherence to the Constitution, to the amendments, the bedrock of our nation. It's amazing. And we need to speak about these things. That's why we have a First Amendment. That's why there are 26 million illegal aliens in our country, why there is a line of 4 million people legally trying to enter our nation every year. It's because of the freedom. And we're here with the Liberty First Foundation trying to support your freedom of speech, to stand up for you, and taking the slings and arrows of being called every name in the book, because we need to protect our freedoms. We need to protect our rights. This is the time that we have to do it. Otherwise, we won't have a chance in the future. That's the truth.
Exactly. Okay. And as we see, okay, there is a concerted effort to silence the voice, not of conservatives, but to silence the voice of the American people. That's, in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not to silence conservatives. It's not to silence the left, okay, or the right. It is to silence the American people. Because if they are putting forth a message that the government doesn't approve of, then guess what? It's getting censored.
Uh-huh.
And you can say that platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, prior to Musk, and every other social media outlet that's out there, have the right to determine what content is presented upon their forums. Then I want you to think about this. When they steal away your voice, they also steal away your freedom. Okay? These have become nothing more than an extension of government that is, number one, not elected by the people. Number two, have no control from the people. And number three, have no obligations to the people. Okay? The people are the ones that are supposed to be in charge of this country. We're finding ourselves being more and more the subjects of this country instead of being the ones that control the path forward of the nation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, it is so important these days. It is perhaps more important than at any other time for people to be involved, because when we're not involved, it's like I always say, your voice is your vote. And if you do not vote, you have no voice. 6 out of 10 people on average have no voice because they're not voting. Well, guess what? It's not just when you vote, it's also when you do things like support this channel and the efforts that we do to try and tell you about what's happening in our nation, about having the conversation about legislation, about what's going to affect our lives. It's when we go out to the range report and you're seeing the various firearms that they tell you you can't have because they're just too deadly, they're too dangerous. And here we are showing you the reality, showing you the truth, having the discussion, because maybe, yes, a woman might want to be able to defend herself since there's fewer police and it's taking longer for police to get to each and every event because they're defunding the police. Maybe that young woman, that middle-aged woman, that mom might want to have a firearm to defend herself. Maybe you want the ability to have passive defense, like owning a bulletproof vest, which is now illegal in some states like New York, where you can't defend yourself passively. You know, we need to have these conversations because I don't know anyone who's ever died because someone else was wearing a bulletproof vest. It doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to take away your freedom. They want you to fear. Oh, no, you can't wear a bulletproof vest because that's dangerous. I don't know how. They've never explained how. They've never shown evidence of anyone being killed because they were attacked by someone who wore a bulletproof vest. You don't do that. It's the fear. It's the lack of conversation. It's a lack of daylight. And that's why we need the Liberty First Foundation. We need the conversation we're having here to point it out and say, hey, there's a better way. There's a better answer. And it's not as simple as just obey. It's just not.
And as always, if you don't agree with us, we challenge you to come on here and voice your opinion. Okay, we challenge you to come on here, present your arguments, tell us why we're wrong. Okay, tell us why we're wrong. Plain and simple. Okay, we won't browbeat you. If you want a one-on-one, if you want the channel to yourself, we will set it up so that you can present your argument. Plain and simple. Okay, we won't even rebut you during your conversation.
But we will ask questions afterwards.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, because this isn't a one-way street. Okay, we need to have these hard conversations. We need to have this dialogue that is open, that is honest. We need to present all sides of an argument. And right now, voices are being silenced. And the more those voices are silenced, the less effective we become as a nation.
Absolutely. I've got to run as well. I will miss you guys tomorrow. Sounds like we're doing this in lieu of tomorrow because everyone's got some things coming up. Just remember, share this. Get this out to everybody you can, because YouTube's going to try to hide it. They're going to use their formula to try to hide this. So make sure you're sharing these videos as much as possible so the people that you care about can see it, because they're not going to find it on their own. They're going to have to go looking for it because YouTube doesn't like what we're doing. And that's why we're doing it, is because we know that they don't like it. We have to keep doing this. We have to break that algorithm.
And that,
You just go ahead.
no, go ahead and finish up with your.
Oh,
Taking over.
just saying that you've got to make sure that you're taking care of the people that you care about, because no one's going to do it for them anymore. Nobody's out for anybody but themselves anymore. And that's why we're here, is to kind of get that back to where we came from and get people to be out for one another, and that community unification that we so desire and that we need back in America today. But I've got to go. Just have a great night, and just every week I'll say it again, and I'll say it next week and the week after that. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. Have a good night.
Have a great night, Jeremy. Thank you.
Definitely.
And I want to expand on what Jeremy was saying just a little bit. Okay, the algorithm can only do so much in its attempt to silence us. However, the more that we get together, the more that we pull together, the more we share content like what we're putting on tonight, the less effective that algorithm is. Okay, the only time that algorithm is effective is when there is not comments being made in a post. The only time that algorithm is effective is when posts aren't being shared. Okay, what will really drive this conversation forward is for people like our audience tonight to share this conversation. Share it to all your friends. Share it to any groups that you belong to. Put it out there. The more it gets put out there, the less effective the algorithm is at hiding the message that we're trying to put forth.
I mean, it's so simple when you think about it, folks. If they weren't so worried about this, if it wasn't something that they were scared about, then why have they shut down the conversation? If they are so correct in whatever the issue, you want to have that discussion. You want to tell me, oh, well, no, you don't understand gun control. Okay, then why are they trying to silence people? It should be so simple for them to say, here's the evidence, here's the argument. It's so compelling. How can you think we're wrong? See, their answer is, instead of having the debate and saying, hey, here's their justification, here's their proof, here's their reasoning, their answer is, no, be silent. Just obey. That's not American. It may be Cuban, it may be Venezuelan or North Korean, but it's definitely not American to say, oh, just obey. And you have to. That is the cornerstone of freedom of Western civilization, is the ability to ask the question and to be compelled by reason and discussion on the merit. If they don't have a merit, we shouldn't be doing it. And that's why we have America, because we have consistently, for hundreds of years, asked questions of our government, of our leaders, of the policies. And because we ask those questions and we get to better answers, we are now the greatest nation in the world, the strongest, the best quality of life, the place that everyone wants to go, because that freedom to say, I'm not sure you're right, I'm not going to just blindly obey. That's why America is so great. And that it takes you being involved. Like, share, subscribe, become a member. You have to be involved. Otherwise, we lose it all.
Exactly. Okay. And we are on the verge of losing it all, folks. If you think that you're not. Okay, I'm actually going to turn this around. Right now, the left is in power.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the left primarily controls media.
Mm-hmm.
It would not take much for that to change, where the right would control the media and the right was in power. And when that happens, then guess what? The right's going to try to silence the left. And they're going to use the same tactics that are being used today, crying misinformation and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? And I will admit that the right tends to be a little more open on listening and open for allowing comments and rebuttal to their arguments and positions.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay, but not all the time.
Nope.
Now, I want to remind you something. A Republican president who was in power took a crisis that happened November 11th, 2001,
Mm-hmm.
and instituted the largest surveillance operation to ever occur in the United States.
On American citizens on American soil. Patriot Act.
Okay. So it's not just the left that's exceeding their authority, it's happening on the right.
Yeah, you know,
We have a government that is out of control because we, the people, haven't held them to check.
you know, I want to point out on what happened after 9/11, the Patriot Act. Maybe you say, oh, there are people who will make the argument. I've heard the argument. Well, if you didn't do anything wrong, you shouldn't be worried about the government looking through all of your data, which is why they're now, which led directly to today, New York State saying, oh, you want to defend yourself? Fantastic. Give us 3 years of all of your social media, all of your email, all of your private conversations, so they can decide if you can exercise the very right you are given by birth. Now, that's one argument. But how about this part? We also saw that the Patriot Act created secret courts. You can be charged with a crime secretly, privately, without notification, and they can go and have an entire trial. You'll never know. It is all hidden away. Does that sound like something that is more likely to be done in America or the old Soviet Union? Does that sound like something that they do in China right now to the Uyghurs, a group of people who have been persecuted because of their religious beliefs and have been put in concentration camps and disappearing around the world? Or does it sound like America, where we have the First Amendment? Which one does that sound like? And it's because we didn't have a conversation about the Patriot Act, because we didn't have a conversation on secret trials in courts, that this exists today. And we need to have those conversations. Even if you think it's right, even if you think it's the best thing, we never got the chance to have the conversation.
We didn't. And funny thing about the FISA courts, okay, the Constitution guarantees you the right. Okay, actually, it guarantees you the right to be able to confront and refute the evidence against you.
Mm-hmm. As well as due process, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, FISA courts do not allow that.
Exactly.
Because all they have to do is say, well, that evidence is confidential. That evidence is classified. You don't have the clearance.
And therefore, you no longer have due process.
Right, because you can't refute the evidence that they are presenting against you.
Which is straight out of China. It's straight out of the old Soviet Union. It's what we see in Venezuela right now.
It's straight out of blockbuster movies like The Minority Report, books like 1984.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. 1984 is not a user manual or an instruction manual. It was a warning.
And this seems like it's the instruction manual that we are seeing many politicians looking at and going, this is the go-to. This is how we get that done. They are taking their examples from what we have seen in the worst horror stories. I mean, 1984 is a horror story. It is a depiction of the worst thing that could happen. Minority Report is a story telling you about the problems, the challenges, the consequences, negative consequences of what the government is doing or can do.
And red flag laws are exactly what is portrayed in the Minority Report.
Well, you know how I feel about red flag laws.
Oh, yeah.
I can't stand that. because
I mean-
there is no due process. There is no freedom. There is nothing but and you know they recently did a poll 3 weeks ago, and 78% of people who took the poll, as I recall, object to red flag laws the moment they have seen what red flags have done, that they have taken children away from parents, they have taken away property, they have denied people the ability to defend themselves, that neighbors or somebody who saw your tweet or saw you post in Facebook, someone who has a grievance with you is able to take away your family, your life, your reputation, your job. And once Americans have seen this, 78%, that's Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, everyone says we can't do this. And yet news media keeps pushing it forward as if, no, they didn't hear you. It's because we're not having the conversation, because every time this conversation comes up, they flag that and they say, oh, we've got to silence it. Shadow ban, you don't get to see it. You don't get to talk about it. It's terrifying.
It is. It is. In many ways, I am completely dumbfounded at where we are today. As I learn more about the history of the founding of this country and so forth through the research that I do on my own, okay, because the passion that I have for this country. But I also am not surprised, even though I'm dumbfounded by it, I'm not surprised at where we are at when you go out and you talk to somebody about, even start a simple conversation about politics,
Mhm.
and the response you get is, I don't do politics. I vote, and that's all I want. That's all the interest I have. Okay. And the thing is yeah, they vote. But they vote the way their parents voted.
They vote because of a TV commercial. Let's be honest. People are voting because you saw a tweet, 140 characters. You saw a 30-second ad. More and more people, the younger you go, the more likely it is they are voting because they saw a Hollywood produced commercial for 30 seconds, or they saw a headline in Twitter or Facebook. They saw that and said, oh, well, that must be, that's it. It's
But
like
it's
Inflation
also
Reduction Act. It's
it's
same
also
thing.
been shown that Democrats and Republicans both, okay, are generationally of that same party.
Generally, yeah.
Okay. So you see Democrats, and each generation of that family has been Democrats all the way back. You see Republicans, same way. Okay. We no longer take the time to understand what the issues really are. Okay. We are fed what the issues should be by the political powers. Okay. Honestly, we need to be the ones determining what those issues are. And we know we don't have those conversations. We are not in control. You've got a donkey and an elephant
Mhm.
that controls our thinking. You've got a donkey and an elephant that tells us what the issues should be. You've got a donkey and an elephant who tells you who you should vote for. Okay, come on. Wake up, America.
Well, it's amazing because, they always
It
like to-
frustrates me.
Yeah, it is frustrating, but to let people really think about that for a second. Remember that in America, the overwhelming majority of people, roughly about 45% of America, is independent. They have no party affiliation. Only about 25% of Americans are either a Democrat and all of its different factions down the line, including the 3%, 3 to 5% of Democrats that are progressives. That's all on the Democratic side. Antifa, BLM, they're all there. And then on the right, with all of its different factions, all you have, that's a religious right, the whole right wing establishment and otherwise, that's both of them are 25%, about 25% of Americans apiece. The overwhelming majority of Americans are independent. They have no party affiliation. So why are we not having conversations? When the majority of Americans aren't just blindly or single-mindedly going with just the party line.
And the funny thing is a lot of those that claim independent, when they go to the ballot box, they will vote a straight Democrat or a straight Republican ticket.
Yeah, and that's usually because of they saw a commercial or they saw a tweet, a headline.
That's the
said,
party
"Oh,
their
that's
parents
it."
voted for. That's the party
Yeah.
their grandparents voted for.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone
because a lot of them, let's be honest, okay, most people no longer watch ads.
No, we're trying to skip them as much as we can. Yeah, it's true.
Okay, I mean, honestly, and a lot of people don't follow political leaders or politics in social media.
True.
So where are these people getting their knowledge in order to go vote?
Their parents, their friends, their teachers
Exactly.
in college or in high school, where they are being told this is the right way to think. This is the right thing. We're seeing it. That's why they've moved politics into entertainment. That's why you've got people like LeBron James. You've got people in, well, everyone apparently at Marvel, at Disney. You know, we're seeing the politics being put. Why? Because instead of watching a 30-second ad, now you have the TV series for She-Hulk, which is all one big political ad. You're seeing the Rings of Power, which is one big political ad, because you're not going to watch the commercials, and they know it. And so instead, they're making the shows, the entertainment, the politics. LeBron James is about politics. He's trying to promote China. I mean, God help you. He'd never be successful. He'd never be able to say or do the things he's doing in his life if we actually adopted the policies he's supporting in China. He'd never have that success. But he doesn't want you to think about that. You're just supposed to obey. You're just supposed to say yes. And that's why we need to have these conversations, folks. That's why we need to hear your voices, to ask us questions, and also for us to say, okay, let's think about this. Because I guarantee you, I've 17 years of political commentary. I can tell you for a fact, 99 out of 100 members of whatever level of government, local, state, federal, do not have any idea the consequences of what they're doing. 17 years I've been talking to these people before, during, and after elections, and they have no idea what they're doing, what consequence it's going to have next week, let alone 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line. They have no idea because they don't have to. They're just trying to get through that next election. Overwhelmingly, we need to ask questions of these people. And that's why we need conversations like this one.
Okay. Our approval ratings have consistently been extremely poor for Congress and for the president. Okay. And the biggest reason why is because guess what? They don't listen. Okay. So if they aren't listening to us, why are we not having the conversations that we should be having? Okay. I mean, when they are praising an approval rating of 38% as a good thing, is that a good thing? Okay, because that means it's got a disapproval rate of 72%.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, 62%. Okay, how can that be a good thing? Okay, it's time for us to start taking our country back. It's time for we, the people, to start uniting together again. Quit allowing the political parties to keep us divided. Quit allowing the politicians, the Hollywood elite, and other factors, the media, to divide us by race, by gender, by sex, by every other factor. Okay? Quit allowing them to divide us. They label us. They label us as liberal. They label us as conservative. They label us as white, black, Hispanic, Asian. They label us. Okay? Quit allowing yourselves to be labeled.
Well, you know what's the label I hate the most? I am a anything hyphen American. Let's go back. Let's a simple start, folks. How about you're just an American? I'm not an African American. I'm not an Hispanic American. I'm not a Puerto Rican American, or people aren't Irish American or Italian American. You're American, period. Point blank. We are American. That's not to say you don't have the heritage of your Laotian. Fantastic. Your family comes from, I don't know, your Aborigines from Australia. I don't care. You can have that heritage. You can celebrate that heritage. It's part of the expression of the First Amendment. Fantastic. But you are an American, period. Full stop. Nothing else. No modifier, no adjective. You are an American. Let's deal with that first. Let's accept that first, because there's nothing wrong. They have convinced us that we need to modify. We have to put an adjective or a description on the type of American we are, because somehow that's better than just being an American. I'm sorry. No, I'm just an American, and I'm proud of that, because America has led the world in increasing the quality of life for billions, and I mean that exactly, billions of people around this planet. We have ushered in more peace in the world than has ever existed before. That is a fact. More people are fed today because of what America has done than ever in the history of the world. There is no greater time for anyone to be alive in the history of the world than today, because America has made it more peaceful, more rich, more higher quality, more food than has ever been in the history of time. And if you doubt me on this, look back at any time in history and compare the quality of life, the longevity of life, the wealth, every criteria, compare it to any other time in the world, and we are better today than then, because America exists and because America has been strong and structured on its principles, its foundation, the Constitution. And the further we get from that, the more we go back to a less advantageous time in history that we have seen previously. That's what I believe. Do you disagree, Mike?
No, I don't disagree at all. And I want to bring up one other point, because right now it's heavy in the news. The LGBTQIA plus designation right now. Okay. If you think that that movement is about equality and equity and whatever else, you need to really think again. Because right now, it is another means of dividing us. And it is a means of dividing the straight from the LGBTQ plus groups.
We need to mention, you be gay, be straight, be trans, you're a grown adult, be at whatever it is you are, so long as you're not harming another person. That's
And I was getting to that, Michael, but I do appreciate you
the censors
putting that in.
Click. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I honestly don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat. Okay. If that's what you want, that's up to you. I honestly don't care. But if you think it's going to stop being a division of straight versus LGBTQ plus, think again, because that division is going to be pretty soon. The lesbians, the gays, the trans are going to be segregated out because they aren't being treated like the rest. Okay? It's only a matter of time, folks. We allow them to divide us into smaller and smaller subgroups and show how this subgroup's a victim of that subgroup, how they're a victim of this group, of that group. Okay, quit seeing yourselves as a victim. Start uniting together as Americans of all creed, of all races, of all genders, of all sexes. Okay, we are Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And until we start seeing each other as Americans, we will continue to be divided. We will continue to be the victims of some oppressor. Okay? And honestly, we're all being oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
We're being oppressed by political parties. We're being oppressed by out of control government. And we are allowing it because they are taking the focus off of them and putting it where it doesn't need to be. They're literally creating the misinformation.
And well, it's fear mongering, Mike. Let's call it what it is. It's fear mongering. Oh, if you don't agree, you are an ist, you are a phobe, you are some name that's supposed to silence you into submission. How dare you ask a question? How dare you say, well, we shouldn't have equity, prioritizing certain people based on political ideals? How dare you say that? Well, wait a minute. If I'm an American and they're an American, all I have to worry about is, are we treating them like every other American? I don't need to care whether you're LGBTQ, you're a toaster, whether you're black, you're white, you're Christian or Jewish or Muslim.
I don't care if you're furry.
Exactly. I don't need to know anything else other than, are you American being treated like every other American? If you are not, we have a grievance and I want to help you. And you should be treated like everyone else. If you are, then there is no problem. Stop creating problems. And that's why they keep making these micro categories and check boxes, because you are no more. The people who are trying to control you have these checklists. You are only as important and only exist as a checkbox. And and that's your beginning and end. What box did you fill so that they know whether they need to pander to you or whether they need to abuse you to get the power they want? That's the problem. So if you are just an American, and think about it, folks, think about this. If there is nothing wrong, and it is actually better to say you're an American, and the only question is, are you being treated like every other American? That answers racism, sexism, gay, straight, every question and every issue is answered by, are you an American that is being treated like every other American? Period. It's that simple. And if we said that instead of what category, what checkbox do you mark off, so we know how important you are today and whether we should pander to you today. No. See, if you're just an American and we're trying to treat all Americans the same, you have more power, you are more respect, you are more important than if you're in a checkbox, because you're only as important as that checkbox needing to be checked off.
Exactly. And we're not here saying that you should disregard your culture.
No,
We're not
not at all.
saying that you should disregard your heritage.
No, not at all.
Okay? Absolutely. Actually, we believe the opposite. You should celebrate your culture. You should celebrate your heritage. Okay? Because we are the melting pot
Yeah.
of the world.
Mhm.
Okay? And that is one of the things that has given us our strength. However, that culture, that heritage is what defined America. That is what made Americans American.
Mhm.
Period. Okay? And when we start identifying as Americans and celebrate our cultures as Americans, then we all move up.
Yeah.
However, if we keep with the identity politics, we keep with the you belong in this box, you belong in that box, you belong in this other box, guess what? It serves nobody well.
It's absolutely segregationist. It's absolutely segregationist.
It is. Okay. And you don't have equality.
Nope.
Nobody's treated equal.
No, can't.
Okay. And the very antithesis of equality is equity.
Yep.
And if we try to do equity, guess what? You're always going to end up losing. Because in order for equity to exist, everybody has to be impoverished. Everyone.
Yeah, there's always a different group that's more important than whatever group you were in just a minute ago. There's always another subcategory. There's always someone who deserves more than you do. And you have no control over that. And there's always someone else pulling the string saying, oh, no, but you're gay? Well, are you black? Or do you have, what race of gay are you? What religion of gay are you? What religion, race, gender of gay are you? What they just keep adding and adding and adding to it. Are you a tall, gay, straight, black, white, whatever? They keep adding check boxes because it's an eternal challenge. You'll never reach equity, what equity is supposed to do, which is supposed to empower you. You'll never get there because there's always another category. There's always another reason to push you down and to allow the people pulling the strings, creating that checkbox, creating that priority list. They're always going to be in control. You're always going to be subjugated.
Okay. The only way true equity can exist is for everybody to have nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's going back to the old thing of communism. And at the end of the day, that's communism.
Even communism still gave stuff. Okay. The only way for true equity is for everybody to have absolutely nothing. Government doesn't have nothing. The people have nothing. So if everybody has nothing, then there's no inequities.
Well, yeah, because otherwise there's always somebody who's unequal. Again, that's why equality never works. There's always another category. There's always somebody.
Okay. I mean, honestly, the only thing that we should be fighting for is equality under the law.
You know what? I think some great people have already made that argument. We're not making that argument, by the way. A lot
No,
of people say, well, how do you know? Why should we believe you? You don't believe me. Don't believe Mike. Believe people. Believe Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Dr. Martin Luther King. Let's go through history, okay? There are much greater people who have already come to this conclusion consistently throughout all known history.
believe Samuel Adams. Believe believe James Madison. Believe Thomas Jefferson.
The Dalai Lama. How about Buddha? I mean,
Mhm.
whether it's religion or ways of life or individuals who have looked at history, Nicholas of Cusa, Nicholas Oram, going back to Aristotle, you can find these elements throughout history. We've constantly figured out that equality,
Plato, Aristotle.
yeah, equity is not equality. It never can be. And what's better for everyone is always, always when you have equality, when you have meritocracy, not communism, not socialism, absolutely not when you have this progressive idea that you're just a checkbox, because you will always be a checkbox. You will always be unequal if you go down that route. You can never be anything more than that. It's terrifying when you think about it. It's terrifying
It
when you
is.
stop and think
Okay.
about it.
Because, like I said, the end of the equity path is for absolutely everybody to have nothing.
Yeah,
There, there is no other end.
yeah,
There
by
can't be.
definition. Yeah, by definition, it
Because-
always must lead you to someone it will always be unequal if
Mhm.
someone has
There
anything
will
different than you.
always be an inequity.
Yes.
As long as people have stuff, there will always be an inequity.
And that's
Because
Yeah.
somebody will be able to take the same amount of resources as somebody else and turn them into more.
Mhm.
And right there, you've created an inequity.
Yes. Because somehow someone else has less. It's terrifying. You know, it's such an easy thought exercise. It is such an easy when you analyze it and just think of the consequences. It is so simple to come to the roadblocks that say this does not work. It isn't hard to have that conversation and to say, and you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be a professor or a lawyer. This is stuff anyone can think through and go, you know what? I've reached a roadblock where it will never be equal. It will never work. It is never more free than what we already have. And yet they're trying to convince people through TV, movies, media, and politicians screaming at you that you have to agree. Otherwise, you're evil. Don't think about it. Just obey. And I have to tell you, if someone's telling me my only choices are obey or you're the bad guy, something is wrong with those options. They're not giving you the reality because my options aren't obey or be the bad guy. There's a world of difference in between there.
There is. Okay. And I want to bring this back around.
Yeah.
Again, the only way that we can save our nation is for us to unite together.
Mhm.
Quit allowing ourselves to be divided. Unite together as Americans. Okay? We are the United States of America. United we stand, divided we fall.
Yep.
And one of the ways that you can help unite America is by becoming a member of the Liberty First Foundation.
Mhm.
Okay? And I'm going to say this. It's a shameless plug. Okay? But there's only our reach can only go so far based upon the resources that we have. And we need your help.
Yeah, it's honest. It's just honest.
Okay? Plain and simple. We need your help. And we will give back as much as we can for all those people that do help us. Okay. But the goal has to be one that is a united vision, one that restores us back to what our foundational roots were. And you can try to say, well, our foundation was based upon racism, it was based upon slavery, blah, 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 blah. Okay. If it wasn't for the Constitution, slavery would have never been abolished.
It would be more rampant than it is right now, and it exists right now in the world. Let's not forget, slavery didn't end. It exists right now.
Okay. Freedom was established via the Constitution.
Yes.
And you can try to challenge that all you want. But if you look at the governments that were in place at the time of the founding of this country, you will find that this was a radical change.
Mhm.
A radical change. And we need to restore that, because the basis of the United States government, the basis of the Constitution, has been, people have tried to replicate it, and they have failed because they tried to give too much power to government. They don't know how to balance it. They don't know what a truly representative government, a representative system of government actually is. Our founders, in establishing the type of representative government that we have, were revolutionary. And people have tried to duplicate it, and they have failed because they don't balance it. They don't give the power truly to the people. They always try to give too much power to the government, and every time it has failed.
Yeah.
Okay, we have, let's see, in what, 2 years? We are over 240 years that our Constitution has been in existence.
Yes. Yeah.
And while it's been modified from time to time, it has never been disbanded. There's a reason why our Constitution still exists today.
Because there's nothing better.
Exactly. Okay. It's stood the test of time.
Yeah.
And if you want to help us restore back to our foundational roots, put government back in check, then you need to join the Liberty First Foundation today.
Absolutely.
$15 a year is all we're asking for. And that money helps us put forth this message. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the night.
Yeah.
Live stream's been going about 2 hours, and this is only supposed to be about 15 minutes, a half hour.
Was it?
But as usual, we get talking. We've got a passion for this.
Yeah.
Once we get talking on it, it's very hard for us to stop.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. I want to thank everybody who's watched us tonight. I want to thank everybody that's going to be watching us in the future. And I want to emphasize, help us get the message out. Help us beat the algorithms. Like, share, comment, join, subscribe.
Yes.
Those are all things that you can do to help us get our message out. Okay, I want to thank Michael Vasquez from No Sound Bites Allowed. I want to thank him for joining us. And unfortunately, tomorrow I will not be on the live stream. I'm not sure if it's actually going to go or not, but because of some medical issues, I will not be in shape to be on the live stream tomorrow night. But I will be back the following week, and I will be back every other week after that.
Yep.
Okay. I want to bless everybody. I want to thank everybody that's tuned in. I want to thank everybody that's watched this. And I want to thank all the new people that have already signed up, and I want to thank people that will sign up. Okay. We're moving towards that initial 250 new members, and then we will be giving away that Henry Golden Boy rifle. And I'm really looking forward to putting that in the hands of one of our new members. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
Not everyone.